And good. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Tom check. Tom check, Tom check. Can't speak.
And mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. I sound like I'm from, I don't know, Boston, maybe. Tom Mic Check. That's my name, Tom Mic Check.
It's Tom Shires, no longer full of cold.
Which is always a benefit.
It is.
To you and to everyone else, really, because contagious.
Well, only stopping spit. Mike Island?
Mike Island.
Is that it?
That's it, yeah.
No tagline. No health status. It is, believe it or not, the Shires and Island Agenda, where we're all about movies and more. It's a sequel, it's episode 2.
It is, which usually tends to follow episode 1, and we've decided to stay true to that tradition.
And it'll be better. It's going to be one of those better sequels, not one of the inferior ones.
That's the plan, anyway.
What's on the agenda, Mike?
Okay, thank you, Thomas. We're starting off with old news and new news for what's on the agenda this week, which means news from the past and news from the future.
Indeed, we're clever like that. Mike will sweat. That's not the name of the item, but it will be an icky few moments during our weekly quiz, may contain spoilers.
Is this back to your cold? And we're also going to be focusing on the small screen with Goggletron, discussing some TV news, but also Freeview Film of the Week, picking out the highlights from the next 7 days in the world of televisual films.
Goggletron rises from the ashes in the next few moments. All that and more now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Push his buttons and turn him on. Send from the picture to beat the motor. 900 channels watch paint on the wall. He's the hero who'll save us all. Goggletron, Goggletron, put it on, it's called a Goggletron. Goggletron, Goggletron.
Okay then, Doctor Who coming back to the screens, at least in the UK, in the next couple of days. Sunday evening, 6:15, I want to say, is its new.
It's all about the family. So why is Sunday the new Saturday?
I think it's basically Strictly Come Dancing's done for Doctor Who in terms of Saturday evenings, because they want to have it on an early Saturday evening slot, but Strictly Come Dancing is the juggernaut that it is, and that's pushed Doctor Who onto Sundays, and they can try and make a feature of it and have it lead into the Strictly Come Dancing results. But I'd like to think audiences are going to transfer. I think the main thing that's got to be borne in mind when it comes to Doctor Who TV audiences is they've been going down year on year, but audiences for people watching it on iPlayer going up massively. Internationally, it's a much bigger thing as well than it used to be, so still a growing concern. And it was in Sheffield last week that the premiere was shown, because the first episode is actually set in the Steel City.
That is the city from whence the woman falls to Earth. Oh yeah, Tom did research.
He did.
It's my only Doctor Who fact, fans.
So yes, this is Jodie Whittaker's first episode.
Did she read Yorkshire? I've not heard it yet.
In this, she's definitely using her original accent, and she comes from not very far away from here. Can we?
Is that you not knowing where it is? Or
no, I'm trying to remember. Skelmanthorpe in Huddersfield.
Oh, okay.
It's part of Huddersfield.
Is it rural Huddersfield?
Yes, it is.
Like Marsden, one of those green places.
It's one of those green places, yes. But no, I think this is the first time in a while that she's used her quote-unquote native accent. I know she was in a programme ironically called, was it Trust Me, last year, where she played
the nurse who was pretending to be the doctor, or the doctor pretending to be the nurse.
And I think she may have been playing Yorkshire then, but this is certainly her first high-profile gig with a Yorkshire accent. It's going to be interesting watching the episode, because she's already used the accent on the show, and I know something that some people had wondered about as fans is she's going to land in Sheffield, and because she's just regenerated, that's the accent she's going to adopt the accent. Yes. Doesn't seem to be the case though, because her only words on screen thus far after regenerating from Peter Capaldi were brilliant. So it sounds quite Yorkshire.
It regenerated, brilliant.
That's very much the idea. So it was a very big deal for Sheffield to get the premiere, also attended by Bradley Walsh of The Chase and now Doctor Who, Mandip Gill and Tussin Cole as well, who were the other two new companions. So Yeah, I think it's going to get an extra boost in terms of audience figures simply because of the novelty of a female Doctor, but whether it's going to sustain that over the course of the series, we'll have to say. Also interesting to quickly note, it's a individual, each episode is standalone this time. There's no overriding series arc.
All right, so you can drop in and drop out,
Yeah.
which is probably good as a media consumer. Reviews have been kind, I wouldn't say glowing, kind of flickering ever so slightly.
I think people have sort of said that she looks very impressive. She looks like
I like the stripy jumper.
You like
It's not a scarf, but it's almost there. It could be with some scissors.
The question marks actually among Doctor Who fans have mainly been over the new head writer, Chris Chibnall, most famed for creating and writing Broadchurch. But the thing is, he has written for Doctor Who before, and I don't want to be dismissive, but none of his episodes are very good.
All right, so the issue here with some of the reviewers saying that the humour lands most of the time, but not quite. And it's interesting because it's a show that is very established, but also a show that periodically has to re-find its feet.
Yes.
Which you don't get very often.
I suppose if you're someone that's going to take the showrunner role or just a writer role on the show, you have to think, well, this is a great opportunity for me to put my stamp on something and yet also stay true to the spirit of it, which, as you say, embraces the idea of the show can change, and that can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. Staying with the Beeb, but also technically moving away from the Beeb, because I was reading on the Beeb, too many Beebs, the past few days, that whilst The Bodyguard has been a huge hit for the BBC, it was actually made with ITV money. It's an ITV production, so when it's sold to Netflix, ITV pocket the cash.
Yes, I think it's...
Do I technically own shares in The Bodyguard as a licence payer?
I'm not sure what the current status of Richard Madden is.
So
but,
maybe then. Welcome back.
But you may well own Richard Madden, a certain percentage of him anyway. So I think it's the case that the production company that makes The Bodyguard is owned by ITV Productions, so it's one of these sort of scenarios where there are lots of cooks, in this particular case, making a nice broth.
Definitely a murderous broth, I think, isn't it?
Did you watch any of it?
No, and it's been such a huge sensation, but I'm told it was NFT, which is not for Toms. That's an official BBFC rating.
Okay.
NFT. Too much of everything.
Is that what this said?
Too much of everything.
All right, but we talked about it in episode 1, the whole idea of streaming and is streaming the way forward, and we did sort of say for things like Strictly Come Dancing, funnily enough, and maybe certain sporting events, streaming perhaps isn't the way to go.
It's still event television.
Has this shown that actually drama has got... You can perhaps build a word of mouth around dramas, and therefore people like anticipating it, and like the fact that it's coming out in bite-sized chunks. Well, not bite-sized, it's coming out in regular, healthy meals.
Yeah, and you know, they tend to go two ways, don't they, produce these things. That sometimes they will just upload the whole thing at once and you can binge watch, which I think has its benefits. But the idea of creating the talking point, as a community, you can't have the so-called water cooler moment if your friend watched all 9 episodes last night, but you've only seen episode 1. So it almost forces the conversation because everyone's at the same place, which doesn't happen so much nowadays because everything's on demand.
Does this kind of depend on the narrative of the show as well? In that Bodyguard, I'm not spoiling anything to say, there was a mystery that was set up right at the start, which is, and even the advertising, is the guy that is the bodyguard actually going to assassinate the person he is protecting? Well, therefore, you've sort of got it built into the series that this twist is either going to happen or it's not going to happen, and we're going to veer close to it or we're going to veer away from it at the end of each episode. Therefore, it actually lends itself to watching week after week after week, so you can build up the anticipation. Whereas if you've got a character-driven piece, that is something where you can binge watch because it could go in any direction any week.
Absolutely. We're going to talk more streaming now.
The agenda has taught you well.
You're listening to the Shires and Island Agenda. Mike Island's in the stream, that is what we are now on the Shires and Island Agenda and HWD Hospital Radio, more music variety. And news that has broken today, in fact, so once again, calendar fans, you can work out when we are recording. That is Jon Favreau's Star Wars series has a name. It has a write-up, which is yellow font on a black background, which always gets Star Wars fans excited. So spoiler alert, that series will be called The Mandalorian, and will basically follow a yet unnamed lone gun somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, away from the fallen Empire, before the days of the First Order and the Resistance. And We've had a lot of Mandalorians already, so it's exciting because people get very excited about them as a people. And we've had Pre Vizsla in the Clone Wars days, we've had Sabine Wren in the Star Wars Rebels days, and I think it's a good move.
Can I sort of show my Star Wars blind spot in this?
Go for it.
I don't know what a Mandalorian is.
All right, so
Is it something to do with Boba Fett?
yes and no. What's never really established is that Jango Fett, so Boba Fett's dad, wears Mandalorian armour, so that's the look.
Okay.
Because Boba Fett is, obviously, spoiler alert, the clone of Jango, he also wears Mandalorian-style armour. What's never really established, though, is if either of them, well, they're both the same person, whether Jango was actually a Mandalorian or not. Did he kill a Mandalorian and take the armour? Because, to be honest, he doesn't look Mandalorian.
Okay.
So they are effectively a warrior race. They are a soldier race, a very kind of principled society, very much like a samurai,
Okay.
but more militant than the Jedi. And they've had various. Sorry, go on.
They are a Force sort of connection at all?
No, they're just assassins and general killers.
Generally grievous.
Indeed, they are. What's the situation? I'll put some effects on that later on. So there's a huge arc in the Clone Wars where Obi-Wan Kenobi was romantically involved, or was he, with a lady called Satine, who was basically the Queen of Mandalore. There was a struggle for power. Satine, spoiler alert, ends up dying, and the various clans, which is what they call the groups, go to war over the throne, effectively, of Mandalore. Spoiler alert, Darth Maul eventually comes to the throne, if you will, of Mandalore, and Sabine Wren in the Star Wars Rebels series is also part of that. So we know a lot about them, but the idea of this group being out there somewhere else in a kind of space western, I think is very exciting.
I can't claim this one for myself, but I did like one title that I heard speculated for the show, a subtitle or an episode title, a Fistful of Credits.
Nice. Indeed. So obviously this is going to be a huge selling point of Disney Play. We talked about that on episode 1. Yet to launch, of course, anywhere, I think, but we're promised it will undercut Netflix. That's the quote that I keep coming back to. And also the merger with Fox seems to be potentially done by the end of the year, which is exciting from the kind of Marvel MCU aspect. So Disney have got it all going on.
They really do, and to fight back, if you want to put it that way, Netflix are resurrecting another franchise. They're resurrecting the Chronicles of Narnia, which of course last hit the screens in, what was it, year that Dawn Treader came out, 2010.
So the first two were kind of Disney properties.
Well, they were Disney properties.
And the third one was Fox.
Yes, they chose not to take
which is now
rights.
going back home to Disney.
Yeah, it's interesting, yeah. They could have kept it all in-house. But yes, it was revealed earlier on this week that Netflix have acquired the rights in a, I think I'm right in saying, a multi-million-dollar deal with the C.S. Lewis company, marking the first time, as Tom sort of was hinting at, that's the first time one company's owned the rights to all the books to adapt them. It's going to be TV and film, made obviously for streaming. Douglas Gresham, who's C.S. Lewis's
TV
stepson.
and film?
Yeah, it's going to.
So it's
talking
talking
about
name
projects
stories as films, and then in betweeny things as a...
They haven't gone into the sort of details, but they do explicitly say TV and film. So I'm assuming it's going to be some sort of movie with universe-building properties. I don't know how you would do that, because that's really going beyond what C.S. Lewis was writing. He wasn't massively into world building as such, so it's going to be something to explore. I have to say, I'm excited by the prospect, but it's never going to top the 1988 to 1990 BBC series, which I do think is superior to the films.
Don't. Will we finally get a decent version of the Silverchair?
Whoa! Do not...
Fighting words.
Do not knock Tom Baker's Puddle Glum. That's not a euphemism.
Some of the moments from that series are very, very painful indeed. And then just moving very quickly to Netflix. I've always threatened every Halloween that I'm going to bring The Haunted Island, which is my treasured choose-your-own book from when I was younger. It probably will make an appearance on our Halloween show. But seemingly Netflix have already tried it with kids' shows,
yes,
and now I'm going to do it with adult stuff.
Yes, Puss in Books, I think I'm right in saying, is the title of the kids' TV show they already adapted.
Shrek, the Shrek
character. Which is the Shrek character, Puss, yeah. But now they're looking at making 3 projects that are going to be allowing viewers to choose their own storylines going forward. The one that's grabbed all the headlines is Black Mirror, which is, of course, Charlie Brooker's dystopian sci-fi series where each episode is a standalone story. And that is what people are sort of saying specifically makes it interesting for this sort of choose your own format, because if you've got the option to choose your own format and you're watching a serial show, if you're watching something that ends on a big revelation or something at the end of a season, and you choose to go for option number A, and
Option number A, I like it, write it down.
Thank you. And option number B, what happens at the start of the following season? If you'd
have to have a dovetailed start that would then have to then come back into a common narrative to then play out again.
Which is therefore why having it on a standalone thing like Black Mirror makes much more sense. Do you think it's another way that Netflix can revolutionise people's viewing habits?
I'm excited by the prospect of, because everyone's a huge critic, I think, and me particularly when I'm watching things, I wouldn't have done it that way. So if I'm therefore presented with the ability to choose something that's a bit more like what I wanted, then I'm going to be paying month after month after month for that opportunity.
But so it makes business sense.
I think it does.
But isn't there the argument that sometimes
you should get what you're given.
Yes.
And you should like it.
So sometimes
it's not your show, it's mine. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it.
You get what you need, not what you want.
Yeah, and you can't always get what you want. Gospel of Mick. And welcome back. You played a Venetian blinder all night, Mike. Are you ready for the final round?
If you're good to go, I'm good to leave.
For tonight's grand prize, a set of used Cybercom 2000 headsets by Tony. Your category is music from the movies.
Okay, I like to think I know about music and I like to think I know about movies, but putting them together...
That should work doubly, shouldn't it? Anyways, I will hum some of cinema's greatest motifs. All you have to do is name that tune. There are bonus points available for naming the correct composers, not just any composer. And you win when the sun doth rise. Are you ready to begin?
Yes.
Begin!
Star Wars Episode 4.
Composer?
John Williams.
Excellent.
Johnny Williams. I do recognise this. Gone with the Wind. Is it Gone with the Wind?
It is Gone with the Wind. One of the forefathers of film music.
It's not Korngold, is it Steiner?
Max Steiner. Max
okay.
Points, Mike Island. I forgot how this one goes.
Does that mean I get more
Here we go.
points?
No, honestly, it's really famous, but it's just I've got to have all issues in my head.
It's Lawrence of Arabia, which is Maurice Jarre.
It is, oh yes, good on you.
I do recognise it. It's Magnificent Seven, which is it's the guy Bernstein. Leonard Bernstein. Elmer Bernstein.
Oh God, I'll let you have it, Elmer Bernstein, indeed.
Korngold with Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yes.
Pink Panther and I'm not going to get this one. Can I say Blake Edwards directed the film?
No.
It's not Barry.
I'm doing the trumpets.
Okay. No, I'm going to have to pass it. No, it's gone.
Henry Mancini.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of as well.
Oh, Mancini, if you like.
What's happened to your face? I'm going to have to pass on this one. It's not.
It's one of the most beautiful melody ever written.
I think I'm not sure. It's not the Romeo and Juliet.
It's Gabriel Zoba from The Mission by Ennio Morricone.
I know you like that. I've never seen it.
This is probably the hardest one. You ready? Down, 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 da, down, da, 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 down, down, down,
Is it sort of
down,
march?
da, down, da, 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 down, 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 let down, da, 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 down, down.
Is it a western?
It is a western. Multi-generational family. It's kind of
Searchers?
It's almost 4 or 5 films in one.
Oh, it's How the West Was Won, which
Yes.
is it's not the Bernstein one, is it?
It's not. It's another forefather.
It's not Korngold, it's not Steiner, it's not. Oh, I
I've
can't.
got a friend in me.
Newman, is it Newman?
It is, it's Alfred Newman, he's going for that.
Alfred Newman.
Doop, doo, 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 doo.
Not a chance.
Du- 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 du-
I definitely recognise it, but it feels what film it's from.
du- du- du. It is.
Casino Royale.
It is Casino Royale by.
No, I've got no idea.
Go on, think 60s songwriter extraordinaire.
Burt Bacharach?
Yes.
Is it Burt Bacharach?
Get in.
Oh, okay.
Let's go for dum 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 da da dum da da dum da 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 dum dum da dum dum da da dum.
Lord of the Rings, Fellowship, I'm assuming, and Howard Shore.
Absolutely. Dum dum da da dum dum da da dum dum da da dum 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 da da dum 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 dum.
You've got the most easy listening face. It's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I've got no idea who composed it. Can I say that they used it on the Grand National for years as the theme for that?
All right, you can. It won't score any points. He wasn't an X-Man. He was a
Jackman?
no, a Michael K man.
Michael K.
Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum.
Is it David Arnold? It's John Barry?
David Arnold.
Is it David Arnold?
Bum 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 bum.
It's
Bum bum ba-da-dum,
Tomorrow Never
bum.
Dies.
It is the greatest James Bond film ever made. Bum ba-dum bum bum bum.
You still doing Tomorrow Never Dies?
Bum, bum. Same year. Bum bum.
Titanic, which was James Horner.
It is James Arthur Horner. Bum 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 bada 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 bada
Jaws.
bada 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 bada. I'm not giving them a clue.
Psycho, which is the composer that worked with Hitchcock all the time.
Yeah, they fell out, didn't they?
Yeah, they fell out. Bernard Herrmann.
Bernard Herrmann, absolutely. Let's go for bum 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 bum. That's all you're getting.
You all right? To be honest, this I feel like I've been doing.
Bum 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 bum.
It's not Tomorrow Never Dies again, is it?
So
to be honest, I'm surprised I can remember any films because it feels like I've been doing this my entire life.
You think this is long wet free film? Chariots of Fire.
Was that Chariots of Fire?
You'll be kicking yourself when you listen back. And finally,
Memories.
the
way we were, and I don't know who composed The Way We Were.
The Spy Who Loved Me's composer.
Who concert? No,
that's for your eyes only.
Sorry.
Stop getting James Bond wrong.
Who composed? It wasn't John Barry that does.
No, it wasn't.
Who was it then? I'm genuinely interested.
Oh,
Who was it?
Marvin Hamlish.
Was it Marvin Hamlish?
Yes.
Okay.
Mike Island.
No points.
You're a winner.
Hey!
It's round, it's purple, it shows you what to view. It's Mike's Big W.
We've all well and truly recovered from that. I should have an album out with Time Life, and you pay with your credit card, get a bonus CD as well.
Would that then mean that our friends at the City of Prague would do a cover of your...
I think so, and it would be my proudest moment. But it's time for that feature on this programme that used to have one name, now has 3 or 4 different names. It's no longer Freeview Film of the Week.
It's Random Recommendation.
Mike's Big W.
And Mike's Big W as well. We're very...
Freeview Film of the Week.
So it's when we pick out the standout films.
He says we.
Pick out the standout films from
I don't have my own W. It's not named after me, is it?
Last 7 days. It could be Tom's Big W. There's nothing stopping you having a W of your own. So then, we pick out the films from the next 7 days or so that really stand out for us. And starting off with a premiere on Saturday evening on Channel 4, it's Deadpool. It's first ever screening on terrestrial television, as was, and it's a superhero film with a difference.
Absolutely, and the sequel's been re-released at Christmas. I'm now told as effectively a Christmas film. They're going to insert some different scenes and turn it into a festive favourite. A lot of people saying that they prefer the second one. I think it's more consistent than the first. Obviously, the first is more shocking because it was a new idea.
Yes.
We're obviously used to the joke and the trick now, but people feel that Deadpool 2 is the better of them. But yeah, hitting cinemas again. I think December 21st or thereabouts.
Limited release.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yes, Saturday evening you can see Ryan Reynolds in. Now is the mask CGI?
No, I think he's
actually got a proper mask.
I think he's wearing a real costume
the entire time. I know he's wearing the costume, but I was wondering whether the
when
mask
he's doing all these flips and stuff, probably not.
Okay, so watch that on Saturday night. But on Sunday afternoon on BBC Two, it's The Man in the White Suit, one of the great Ealing comedies, starring Alec Guinness as an inventor who invents a textile that never gets dirty and never wears out. And the comedy is therefore how the textile industry worldwide want to stop him.
Alright, so it's not on the shelves yet, but they know he's done it.
They know he's done it, and it could therefore put them out of business forever. And Alec Guinness is the man they're trying to hunt down, and he's wearing this brilliant white suit the entire way through the film. It's certainly... I don't think it's quite the top of Ealing comedies, but to be the fourth or fifth...
What's the top? Kind Hearts?
Kind Hearts and Coronets is the best for me. But to be sort of fourth or fifth best Ealing comedy is still better than about 99% of other comedies. On Sunday evening on Film 4, Edward Scissorhands. We must be getting near to Christmas time if they're putting Edward Scissorhands on.
Is it a Christmas film?
It's set at Christmas, isn't it? But whether it's...
Yeah.
We'll talk about Christmas films on our Christmas shows. Yeah.
Mike has lists.
We'll just quickly mention, do you like your True channels...
TRU. No, they've bought the E.
They've got the E.
They've bought the E now.
Has now switched to True Christmas.
Oh.
All Christmas films, all the time.
B movies? C movies?
You can definitely see movies on True Christmas, but whether they are worth watching. Anyway, Edward Scissorhands, it's one of the Tim Burton films that I haven't seen.
And you should watch it because, I mean, it's typical Tim Burton fare, absolutely, but it has probably for me the most human story of anything that he's ever done, because we've all felt at times like an outcast or a little bit different, and the way that he is welcomed by the family and then subject to the kind of ridicule of
the broader
kind of
community,
middle class America is probably a commentary on something, probably middle class America. But you get the Tim Burton kind of quirks and darkness and magic as well, and Danny Elfman's score is on point.
Okay. On Monday night on Film 4, it's True Lies, which, look, it is dated in many ways and it's very much of its time, but I do think if you're going for a sort of broad action film from the 1990s, you wouldn't be going too far wrong to watch True Lies.
No, and wasn't there a TV series coming at some point?
Was there?
There was a limited sequel.
This is Netflix?
Yeah. Choose your own.
Okay. But yeah, you sort of got Arnold Schwarzenegger at the point where he was playing... So he's taking the mickey out of himself as much as anything else, and I think he does
He's been a caricature for a long time, though, to be fair.
That is true. Okay.
Chill.
I'll also mention on Monday night on ITV4, Ransom, Mel Gibson starring in it. I think it's a remake of not one, but I think it's a film that then became a TV series in the 60s, and this is the Ron Howard directed 1990s more serious effort of a man whose son, a millionaire whose son is kidnapped, and he refuses to pay the ransom, instead puts it out as a bounty for anyone that brings him information of his son's whereabouts.
I was thinking this recently. Ron Howard's done some stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's very much...
He's done all right.
He gets criticised for being a workman gentleman-like director, but I would sort of say, no, it just shows that he's able to turn his hand to different styles of film.
Yeah, rad situations, rockets, spaceships. He does everything. Actual ships.
He does, yes, he does.
Actual boats in the heart of the sea.
Okay. And
it's not that bad.
On Tuesday on the Sony Movie Channel, do you remember the number of the Sony Movie Channel?
Sony Movie Channel is channel number... is this the one where they had the mnemonic? Do we have a mnemonic for this one? No, obviously not. It's number... 35.
32.
Oh!
You were so close. By the way, True Christmas is 62, because of course it is. But The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, it's the first of the, I think it was Millennium trilogy of books. This is the US production directed by David Fincher and starring Daniel Craig and Rooney Mara, but of course it is going to be Claire Foy who is starring in the new film that's coming out later on this year, playing, is it Lisbeth Salander, I think the character's called. And she's taking over from Rooney Mara in the role, and very much a change of pace, given that her most famous role to date is as Queen Elizabeth II in Netflix is The Crown. But our freeview,
love you, Netflix.
Our freeview film of the week, it was one of my favourite films growing up. I still think it stands very much ahead of E.T., Flight of the Navigator.
Oh yes, Sarah Jessica Parker in full swing.
It's still the high point of her career?
I think so.
Okay. I like it because it has actually got some surprisingly dark moments.
Well, the whole idea is dark, that he's missing for years, he goes home, his parents aren't there.
The whole moment where he knocks at the door to the house, and as far as he's concerned, it's 5 minutes since he's been away. It's still the same night that he left. He just lost consciousness for a bit when he fell down a hill. And knocks at the door, and an old lady answers the door and sort of says, what do you want? He says, well, why are you in my house? And I just think that is incredibly, incredibly scary. And I really like the fact that the alien creature that he ends up meeting, Max...
Is it Paul Rubens?
Definitely Paul Rubens does the voice, yeah. Has a childlike personality. But he has a childlike personality because he had some sort of AI encounter with the boy. So it is basically a child's brain that he is taking the personality of. So I think there's a reason for it. And it just hangs together really, really well. I'm surprised it's not as popular as it should be, really.
Yeah, and it gets away with a lot for a U.
Yes, it probably does push the boundaries. Is that nearly one of those films
NFT?
That you might not get to see?
NFU.
Okay, so it's on Film 4 on Sunday at 1:05 in the afternoon. Remember, with great agenda comes great responsibility.
You're listening to the Shires and Island Agenda. Tom Shires, Mike Ireland, Shires and Island Agenda on the Shires and Island Network and hwdhospitalradio.com. Now, we talked already in the programme tonight about streaming, but I guess this conversation is more about the power of the internet and social media and the strange movements we see from time to time where we say bands of fans, it could be just one person, in fact, with many, many accounts, use Twitter and the like to influence reviews of films to effectively slander or besmirch the name of a product that's coming out. Yeah. Now, we saw it with Batman vs Superman. It tends to be a kind of imagined or real DC Marvel rift,
yes,
and the DC fans get on the Marvel films and likewise. But now, this time, fans seemingly of The Star is Born, or A Star is Born, wanting to take down an alien symbiote. It's a fight I'd like to see.
Yeah, it's not something I expected to be talking about, but let's be honest. I wouldn't have thought there was a huge amount of crossover between Lady Gaga learns to sing as taught by Bradley Cooper and Tom Hardy attached to a monster that wants to eat people.
I would like to be stood in the cinema foyer with the person, looking up at the screen going, which one is it going to be? Because if they had the same audience, such as the DC Marvel equivalent, then you could understand it. But without making sweeping generalisations or casting aspersions, I wouldn't have thought, as you say, there's much crossover in the audience between that musical and that sci-fi horror action film.
Is this because getting the number one position in the box office is the be-all and end-all these days?
And is it?
I don't think it is.
Isn't it money? Does it matter? I'm sorry, the film made $2 billion, but it was number 2 at the box office. Is it
that the idea of selling your film in the weeks after it's first released as being the number one film? Because the point is, people who are passionate about Marvel films, and I know this isn't Marvel Cinematic Universe films, will go and see Venom in the first week. What you want is people who aren't that passionate about the film to then go and see it in weeks 2, 3, 4, etc. And if you can sell it as this is also the number one film at the box office, people think, I want to get on board with that. Likewise, people want to get on board with The Star is Born if they know that Lady Gaga can actually act.
Yeah, populism's not right, though, is it, Mike? Just because it's popular does not make it right. But interesting that I don't know whether social media users are using the same phrase or whether they're just creating multiple accounts, but the actual wording that's been used against Venom from the Star is Born fans is the same.
Okay.
So, like I say, I don't know if it's one guy in his basement or whether the movement is or copy and paste this and post it against Venom.
Are we talking about Russian trolls? Is that what we're talking about here?
Maybe.
Oh, but trolls from other countries. Or trolls from other countries. I don't want to just say.
They will crush you.
They really, really will. So Venom has been released this week. The reviews, putting aside the troll reviews, seem to be sort of, it's fun, it's a bit old-fashioned. That's about all they can say with it. There's some fun stuff with Tom Hardy, even though Tom Hardy seems to have criticised that they've taken about 40 minutes out of the film that has got his best work in it. Was it something that was always going to raise a few question marks? How are you going to do a Venom story when you haven't got Spider-Man?
Yeah, and are there any mentions made? I know there is, for example, a mid-credit scene, spoiler alert, I won't mention specifics, with a high-profile actor playing a character who we know will transform into a creature somewhat like Venom.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. I've probably said too much. I think anything that probably washes out the bad taste of Spider-Man 3 can't be a bad thing. But I think even in that particular universe, that was a wasted opportunity with Venom. I think going the sci-fi horror comedy route is interesting. It's effectively Deadpool with black slime.
Okay. So, talking of which, Titans.
Indeed, already renewed for a second season, despite the fact that, well, we haven't seen it over here in this country. Has it actually even aired? Is DC Universe live in the US? It is.
The reviews have started coming out for it this week, and I think it's actually going live, so general audiences can see it next week. I think it was also confirmed this week that Netflix has bought it to show in the UK.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so it's another mention of Netflix on this particular show.
So what's the business plan for DC
I've
Universe
got no idea.
launching their service over here when all their shows are going to be tied up either with Sky or Netflix?
Beyond me. But they clearly think they can do it because, Warner Brothers have never been proved wrong.
Indeed. Another quick mention of DC Universe is the Harley Quinn teaser for an adult animated show. Yes.
So, I just where are you putting the emphasis on the word adult?
So Harley Quinn, voiced this time by Kaylee Cuoco, who you'll know best as Penny from The Big Bang Theory. She's going to have a lot of time.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah.
So she needs the work because obviously the $1 million an episode is not working out.
But then again, she's got the money, so maybe she just thinks I can stay at home and record in my garage.
Indeed. Or the Stan Webb studio. It's free most of the time. For me, it's just a crying shame because Arlene Sorkin is the voice of Harley Quinn, in my mind.
So you're saying if they're doing an animated series, why don't they just get the actual proper voice of Harley Quinn?
I don't know whether it was just to have the reveal at there was a Comic-Con recently and Kaylee was there. So that's a big thing because people get excited because of the Big Bang connection, comic books and the like. So it's a selling point, but I think they've missed a trick.
But then again, do we know what we've joked about it when they're saying it's an adult cartoon? Are they aiming it at an adult audience?
Yes.
Therefore, could there be an argument that you want to differentiate it from the voice of Harley Quinn that people associate with the DC animated
Maybe let's not taint the memory, so to speak, of the child-friendly clown killer. But it was interesting. So Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn are sat in a cell at Arkham. Poison Ivy is very much down on the idea of them making the show, and they take pops at DCEU, the Deadpool cartoon that never happened, but it's supposed to be kind of an irreverent robot chicken-esque Family Guy type thing. Batman appears at one point in the window behind them. I just don't get it because for me, the more content I see or more potential content I see for DC Universe, the less interested I am in giving them my money. Because I just don't want to. I don't want to watch Robin swear. We established that last week. I don't want to watch Harley Quinn try to be clever.
Okay.
I know she's a doctor. She's got the certificates.
He's strong in his likes and dislikes, and to be honest, that's what I like to listen to. So we've had Beauty and the Beast. We're going to be getting Lion King. Mulan is, I think, in production at the moment.
Oh, don't forget, of course, Cinderella and Jungle Book.
I was going to say they're the ones that, of course, really kicked the thing off. But we're now getting into the Disney animated films that were made this
They're all classics.
They were made this
It's a
century.
classic on the box, Mike, so it must be a classic.
Well, look, if I've seen it, it's a classic. If I haven't seen it, it isn't. And unfortunately, 2002's animated adventure Lilo and Stitch, brought to you by the House of Mouse.
It was huge, though.
Well, no, it wasn't at the time. The DVD sales were very good, and in the years since, it has grown by word of mouth and become very popular. I think we've got someone that we know that's got an image of it as their Twitter header.
Indeed. How'd you let me finish? It's huge in the sense of, I know a lot of little kids that have the teddy bears and love the music. There was also a big Elvis connection, was there, in the films. So the fact that it's survived, I think, is good. It's taken on life itself. But where's my live action Oliver and Company? That's where I was.
Is that what you really want?
I'm all for Billy Joel coming back and doing his thing. He's got street savoir-faire and he's not afraid to show it.
That is very true. Would you have him come back and write some new stuff as well for us?
Indeed.
Is it new stuff? I know this has gone into a music review.
He doesn't write pop anymore.
Doesn't write pop
He
anymore?
writes classical music now. His last pop song.
That's going to bring Oliver and Company down, isn't it?
It's like 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
He does his great hits tour. And he's one of those artists that I respect that says, actually, I'm not chasing hits anymore. I'm just going to knock out the classics.
Okay. Well, Disney may be knocking out
new versions of classics.
Lilo and Stitch. Again, to bring it back to the word of the night, it may be going onto a streaming service rather than a theatrical release.
All right.
Yeah. So,
what kind of cast? Any indication?
No indication. I think it's in the very, very early stages. It's going to be two of the producers of the forthcoming Aladdin live action, Dan Lin and Jonathan Eyrick, and also the script is going to be penned by Mike Van Weiss. He's the writer of The Crooked Man, which is inspired by The Conjuring 2. It's all part of the Conjuring universe.
Indeed, the nun. She's going to get you. Is that Conjuring?
I was thinking, is it something to do with David Copperfield and David Blaine? I don't know, but
it's all about the magic. Yeah. What's happened with Zendaya and Little Mermaid? She was rumoured to be attached to that one.
Yeah, stuck on the rock. As far as
ground.
As far as I'm aware, it is something that Disney are thinking about rather than actually confirmed. I may be wrong on that one. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So they push ahead with Lilo and Stitch. I mean, if they're all about the cash in, why?
Well, this might.
It'll be Treasure Planet next.
Are you thinking that maybe Lilo and Stitch, because it hasn't got quite the name recognition as some of the other ones, is one of the ones that would make more sense for a streaming service?
I suppose, but why spend your money on it? Don't make a few of those little projects and make a better, bigger project.
Tom runs the studios.
Iger, are you listening?
Okay then, another live-action remake that is coming along soon is Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Dolittle, but it's going to be a little bit later than expected.
Doctor doing nothing, to be honest.
The Voyage of Dr. Dolittle, it was originally supposed to be coming out next year, April I think, so quite soon, but it's now going to be January 2020 in the United States. No confirmation of when it's going to be in the UK.
Is Robert Downey Jr. in danger of becoming Johnny Depp?
Well, overexposed.
Well, that and just slightly zany guy. Oh, he's the very, he's the quipping Iron Man, and he's the Sherlock Holmes, and he's Dr. Dolittle, and
what was it Zodiac? The film he was in with
that serial killer
Mark Ruffalo. Yeah, because
it's dark.
Yes, but I'm saying he did that post Iron Man, didn't he? And around the same time, I think, as the first Sherlock Holmes film. So that was something when he did something a little bit different. But since then, he sort of stuck to the Iron Man groove.
Quote.
I think
if anyone could post a movie, it'd be Iron Man. To quote a Hollywood actor that we're not allowed to mention his name anymore, I don't think. He said that sometimes you've got to make one of the kind of mainstream films in order to make the kind of films you want to make.
One for them and one for me.
Yeah.
Is kind of the approach. So in terms of the voices, people are going to be lending their voice cast to Stephen Gahan's Voyage of Dr. Dolittle. Antonio Banderas, so we assume he's doing Puss in Boots. Michael Sheen, obviously going to be voicing the who's the character that he plays? Well, he could do Brian Clough, let's say that. Tom Holland, Ray Fiennes, Emma Thompson, Octavia Spencer, and Kumail Nanjiani. So again, a strong cast, and we'll have to wait until 2020 to see that one. But concluding the remakes.
Pew 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 pew. It's Little Women.
No, Little Women, a remake is actually in the works from Greta Gerwig. But we're going to West Side Story.
Pew, pew, pew. Oh, I thought, I've got the Wild Bunch. I'm not bothered with that either.
We can do that.
Not Gibson.
There's a remake of The Wild Bunch coming out as well, directed by Mel.
I was doing West Side Story. I've been kicking my fingers and I can't really do it. That's the best I can do.
Pew, pew. I thought you were thinking Wild West when you were doing. I thought that was what you were playing.
Oh, yeah. Wild West Side Story.
Yeah. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that a forthcoming Will Smith vehicle? That'd be a giant spider. Anson Elgort has been confirmed as starring in Steven Spielberg's adaptation of West Side Story, which of course was one of the biggest successes of the 1960s at
It's a
the
painful
Oscars.
film to watch, you know. Have you ever watched it?
You don't like it?
It outstays its welcome, and I don't say that much. I love a musical. Having seen it on stage and performed in it on stage even.
Who were you, Maria?
I was Officer Krupke. I'm basically the neighbourhood policeman that is tortured by the two gangs. Not literally, but they're little scamps, and I chase them around.
Well, that's quite a sliding scale. You've gone tortured to chased around a bit by scamps.
It was emotive language, hyperbole, if you will.
Yes, it's coming out. In a
two clicks.
A few years' time. Very good. A few years' time, but. Do you think, again, it's just going back to the well?
Is it going back to the well that has been reopened by the likes of The Greatest Showman? I mean, but the trouble is, though, that it's going to come quite far removed from that. But is it a case of, a good musical's found an audience again, so if we can attach the Spielberg name to another well-established property, surely it's money.
Also, I suppose the argument you would have with West Side Story is it's pre-existing property that's been adapted before. So you're adapting something that's already been adapted, isn't it? It's not quite the same as a direct remake, but...
Yeah, musically very good. You've got the Romeo and Juliet-esque story, but hopefully it can just be a bit speedier than the film version that we're all aware of. And I'm on board. I'm there.
I just want to say one thing to my wife who's home. Your agenda, we did it!
You're listening to the Shires and Island Agenda.
Shires Island Agenda, HWD Network. Oh, yes, it is the second episode of the Shires and Island Agenda. And leading off and on from that conversation about remakes to X-Men, The Next Last Stand Again, a.k.a. X-Men Dark Phoenix, a.k.a. the film that seemingly doesn't want to be an X-Men film, Dark Phoenix, where the X is in a circle.
It's also the film that apparently doesn't want to be released because it seems to be taking an awful long time.
Simon Kinberg, who's
yes.
He's been explaining that they changed the final act, and therefore, because they changed the final act, they had to go back and change everything else that happened before it.
That's nice.
Which is logical. I like the man's approach. So the trailer for that's hit in the past few days, and whilst I begin with the flippant Last Stand comparisons, that is pretty much the flavour. But it's an adaptation of a comic book arc, so it's not really a remake of The Last Stand, in so much as it's another retelling of what happened in the comic books.
And I think it would be fair to say that X-Men The Last Stand took a liberal, quite loose approach to adapting the classic Dark Phoenix saga, so something that is a little bit closer, we assume, is going to be the way Dark Phoenix is going.
Indeed. So from the trailer we have young Jean Grey meeting with Charles, or, you're not a monster, we don't have to be afraid of you. Modern day Jean goes to what we assume is Magneto in Genosha. Is that the?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's the name of the country. And he says basically, you don't want help, you just want permission. She unleashes her powers, and seemingly everyone's got to band together to stop her from doing bad stuff.
Now, is it just me, or are they embracing more of the comic book elements, not just than the early X-Men films, but even more than, say, the First Class days, when you look at Apocalypse and just the Ivan Ooze look of Apocalypse, and now
where's my autograph book?
And now you look at Dark Phoenix, and some of the visuals from that look somewhat out there, and also you're mentioning Magneto's Genosha Island. They're the sort of things you wouldn't have had in the early X-Men films. Is it all the Marvel Cinematic Universe influence that sort of suggests we can actually go there now?
Yeah, and also the song that plays over the trailer is just called The End. So you get the feeling very much that they know this is the last Fox X-Men film. We can kind of do what we want in the sense of it's all probably going to get rebooted anyway, but maybe we leave the franchise in a good place that if they want to cherry pick certain elements or maybe even transfer certain actors across, they can do that. There's no Vinnie Jones, sadly, in this adaptation. He won't be running through walls and swearing at young children.
Is this another film that is now not for Tom?
Oh no, it's not the worst.
People swearing at young children's fine.
It's not the worst swear word that he uses, to be fair, but he just emphatically says that he's the Juggernaut, young lady. and it's inappropriate. So do make a point of watching the trailer for Dark Phoenix, aka X-Men Dark Phoenix. Yes, it's a retread, but we've come to love these characters over, what is it? How many films? This is the fourth film, wasn't it? Obviously, we had First Class, we had Days of Future Past, which blended the two, Apocalypse, and now Dark Phoenix. I think, as Xavier, James McAvoy's doing a grand job, Fassbender's in top form as well. So there's a lot to like about the films, even if it's all going to be wiped away.
And can I just quickly ask, Jennifer Lawrence, how much does he feature in the trailer? I say this simply because it seems sort of weird that Jennifer Lawrence is in this now. And I don't just because they sort of look sort of having Jennifer Lawrence in First Class, and she's now become the sort of actress that you wouldn't think would appear in this unless she's playing the lead.
Indeed, and I think some of the previous films did get a bit Mystique-centric, probably contractually. But no, I don't think it's a spoiler to say, but there are scenes in this trailer of a funeral. And many are leading to believe that perhaps Jennifer Lawrence might get a wish that Mystique is killed, and therefore that's some kind of catalyst in the story. But seemingly, when you know the MCU merger's coming, what's it matter?
Yeah.
And surely Disney are going to be a big bucks to have you back.
They've got all the money coming in from streaming services.
Why you speak agenda?
You're listening to the Shires and Island Agenda.
So we're debating, just as this edition of the Shires and Island Agenda comes to the end, whether we've spoken too much about Disney. But actually, to be fair, is that just symptomatic of the age in which we live, that corporations are only getting bigger, they're assuming other things, more properties have been brought under one umbrella, if you will, and the man holding that umbrella, or on top of that umbrella, no, he'd be getting wet, is Bob Iger.
Yes, and he's been talking recently about the idea that there are simply too many Star Wars films coming out year on year.
Now, let's put this in perspective. Is too many just a way of saying, one of them didn't perform as well as we thought it would, and therefore there are too many? Because surely you can't base that. I think that's a huge assumption, really, that just because it didn't work with one, that, actually it's wrong, the model's wrong, let's throw it out.
Also, there's the mathematical argument, if you will. If the reason, say, Last Jedi or Force Awakens got so much money is because there's a huge anticipation for them, does that actually add up to, if we keep bringing a solo-level film out, and that doesn't get as much money, but if we keep bringing one out every year, that'll still level out, won't it?
Maybe. And are they lesser films in the sense of adding a Star Wars story after it? Is that Disney acknowledging that, yes, we have the main films and then we have the lesser films, and surely you just do them on a lesser budget and it's not as much of a problem?
And also to compare it again with the sort of already in House of Mouse Marvel films, Guardians of the Galaxy wasn't predicted by the studio to be a huge hit, but it became a huge hit. So who's to say that the next Star Wars story film won't become a huge hit, and then they can go and make spin-offs from that? And what are they expecting from Rian Johnson's trilogy? What are they expecting from the Game of Thrones guys trilogy or series? I think they've said they can't expect those ones to be as big as the Star Wars saga films from the off, but maybe they can grow into that.
Indeed, and I'm sorry, Bob, but it was your own fault, because I follow the marketing of these films very, very avidly. And in the run-up to The Last Jedi, it was all about The Last Jedi. And it's almost like someone realised when it became like January the 1st and Last Jedi had been out for a couple of weeks and raked a load of money, that we've got another film out in 5 months and we best do something. So I just can't believe that a company the size of Disney, who seemingly have it all planned out and have done so well with mapping out all these universes, could have dropped the ball in such a way.
Well, it does seem...
Unless it was a plan.
They planned to drop the ball.
They planned to drop the ball because maybe they felt that they'd set themselves up for too much, so therefore we drop a clanger and we can get ourselves out of it.
You want to drop a clanger, that's just cruel. But it just seemed obvious to put it at the end of the year rather than 5 months after Last Jedi, because then you could have the whole year to build up to it. And you were the one yourself that I think said about they were worried about crossing the streams with marketing for Last Jedi and for Solo and confusing the general audience. So therefore, give yourself a full year to just focus on Solo.
See, that makes sense with me and you sat here in the stab web. Stan Web.
We're talking Venom again.
The Stan Web studio. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? But I don't know, is it corporate thinking? You get like 12, 15, 20 people around a table and suddenly all manner of logic just disintegrates and dissipates.
Are you saying that the Shires and Island Agenda should try having 12 presenters?
That, or Bob just, make us chair of the board and we'll sort it out.
You know how to get in touch. Twitter?
And that is it for another edition of the Shires and Island Agenda. Hopefully it's been more Godfather Part 2 than Attack of the Clones, but you'll be the judge.
That of course means we've got to look forward to Andy Garcia next time.
Absolutely. So until next time, take care to now, and remember, we are Shires and Island.
And we're out of here.